They mocked his kindness until it was the only thing that saved them. He was different, not weak, not naive, just different. While others fought to be seen, he stayed in the background. While others spoke with sharp tongues, he offered soft words. While they pushed to get ahead, he extended a hand to those left behind. They laughed at him, told him the world would eat him alive, that kindness was a liability, that it made you vulnerable, that it got you hurt. He heard it all. Grow a spine. Stop being so nice. You'll never survive like this. But he didn't change, not because he couldn't, but because he chose not to, because somewhere deep down he knew that losing his softness meant losing himself. So he endured. He stayed kind in a world that rewarded cruelty, stayed honest in rooms full of masks, stayed gentle even when he was met with roughness. They called him weak. They were wrong. What they didn't see was the strength it took to keep being good when goodness went unrewarded. The courage it took to forgive when he had every right to be bitter. The power it took to stay open in a world that kept trying to shut him down. They took his kindness for granted, used it, mocked it, abused it. But he kept showing up. For friends who disappeared when he needed them most, for people who remembered him only when it was convenient, for a world that didn't return what he gave. And then, everything fell apart. The very people who had laughed at his softness found themselves lost, hurting, isolated. The sharp edges they'd wielded so proudly began cutting them back. The walls they built kept out not just pain but love. And that's when they saw him again. Not as weak, not as foolish, but as the one person who hadn't turned away. The one who, despite everything, still believed in them, still offered warmth, still opened his heart when others had long since closed theirs. They came back to him, slowly, shamefully, expecting judgment. He gave them grace. Expecting distance. He gave them presence. Expecting a cold shoulder. He gave them shelter. Not because they deserved it, but because that's who he was. Because his kindness was never a performance, it was a principle. And in the end, it was the only thing that saved them. Not just from their circumstances, but from themselves. They began to understand that kindness isn't weakness, that empathy isn't naivety, that those who carry compassion are often carrying the heaviest burdens and still choose to make the load lighter for others. He didn't need to say, "I told you so." He didn't need revenge. He didn't even need acknowledgement, because his reward wasn't their apology. It was his own peace. He went to sleep each night knowing he didn't have to betray himself to be accepted, knowing he chose humanity over ego, knowing he stood for something real in a world of counterfeit power.